Well, hello to anybody who's out there and maybe watching. My name is Jen Baker, and this is the first live streamed episode of my podcast called Books and Beer. We're going to be talking about books and beer, or talking about books while drinking beer. My first beer for tonight is called Dragons and Dinosaurs. It is a double dry hopped blonde ale by True Vine Brewing in Tyler, Texas. And this is, let's see if we can get you a good. This is the can. Nice little 8-bit graphics, which I thought was appropriate considering Twitch is primarily a gaming stream. So I am going to be using my red Solo cup. This is actually a glass cup. It is the 20th anniversary cup from the Flying Saucer. And that's what I'm going to be using for this beer. And I just thought it was that beer was particularly appropriate one for the first beer on the stream. So anyone who's in chat, if you go ahead and pop a quick message in, I will give you a shout out, and you can let me know how it's sounding, because this is a new setup for me. But here's to books, here's to beer, here's to streaming. I don't normally like hoppy beers, and this one is a double dry hopped pale ale, but on a warm day it is a nice refreshing beer to have. So it is also 6.0 alcohol by volume, so it's pretty average. Hey, my sister is actually watching me. Hey, Kelly. Thank you for hitting that little purple button so you could follow me. I appreciate that. Alright, so we're going to be talking, I'm going to talk about all kinds of different books. Audiobooks, ebooks, graphic novels, print books. What I've been reading since the beginning of the year, although I've been doing a lot more reading in the last couple of weeks for fairly obvious reasons. I'm not currently allowed to go into work, so I have a lot more free time. On audio, I have been listening to 2 different books. The first one is Naturally Tan by Tan France from Queer Eye, and I listen to that while I exercise. It is a way to encourage me to exercise because I don't like to, and I need to. So I only listen to it when I'm exercising. I have about an hour and a half left, I think. And Tan actually narrates it, and he is a lot of fun to listen to. It's a lot of background on his life before Queer Eye and how it's changed since he got to on Queer Eye and how he got on Queer Eye. It's also, he gives you some thoughts along the way on fashion, and he is his personality shines through just as much as you would expect it to, but he's a little more salty, a little bit more direct. And it really kind of sounds like he's just talking to you rather than reading his story. But, so it gives me a good incentive to exercise. I have the audiobooks for the other guys in Queer Eye queued up for when I finish his, and again, I'll only be listening to those when I exercise. The other one I'm listening to, and I haven't been listening to it much because I haven't been in the car much, is Becoming by Michelle Obama. She has a very soothing voice, and when I'm sitting in the middle of traffic, it's actually a very soothing read. It's very interesting, and it is basically, I've gotten up to the point where Barack Obama has been elected president, and they have moved into the White House. But that's as far as I've gotten so far, and since I'm not driving much, I'm not getting a chance to read much or listen to it much. Ebooks. Twitch for Dummies by T. Morris. Now, T is someone I've known for a long time. This is his second For Dummies book. He did the For Dummies book on podcasting for dummies. And he also has just brought out Discord for Dummies. So, seeing as I already knew about and had used the Podcasting for Dummies book, when he came out with the Twitch for Dummies book, I brought that out too, and picked that up so that I could use it to get a start on Twitch. So thank you to T for that. He is the T Monster on Twitch. Mainly games, plays Destiny, but he does do a few other games as well. In print, now these I actually have the books. I read The Calculating Stars by Mary Robinette Kowal. I adored this book. It was lots and lots and lots of fun. I need to get my hands on and read The Faded Sky. I haven't done that yet. But I listened to Mary Robinette Kowal on the Writing Excuses podcast. And so I already kind of knew her voice. But it's an alternate history on the space program that starts with a meteor taking out most of the East Coast. And one of the first women, or one of the first people in the involved in the moon race is a African American woman who starts out as one of the calculators. So then I read DC Icon's Wonder Woman, there we go, by Leigh Bardugo. I had a problem with trying to figure out exactly when the story was supposed to be taking place. Mainly because of the movie and things that happen in it and things that happen in the movie. It was not what I expected, although I did enjoy it. I kind of saw where it was going before I got to the end of it, but it was still a lot of fun. I would recommend it if you like superhero stuff, if you like Wonder Woman stuff, but it really wasn't, like I said, it wasn't what I was expecting, so I enjoyed it, but I don't know that I would read it again. Okay, and what I've been reading most recently is just a comfort read, and it's not just one book. It is by Mercedes Lackey, and it is the Valdemar books. I haven't been reading all of them. I started with Arrows of the Queen, and I've been reading Arrows of the Queen, Arrow's Flight, Arrow's Fall, By the Sword, which is kind of an in-between book, the Mage Winds trilogy, and now I'm reading the Storm trilogy. I'm on the second book. That's Storm Rising. Let's see if I can get that where you're not getting it. There we go. It's one of my favorite trilogies out of that series, and I'm almost at the end of the book, but not quite. And so that makes me want to kind of be reading it instead of doing this, because the third book is probably my favorite in that trilogy. Mercedes Lackey is a comfort read for me. I go back to it, even though I read the books multiple times. When I get stressed or tired, it's what I think of as an easy read. I know what's going to happen. I know where it's going, and I know the characters, so it makes it more fun for me to read. Okay. So anyone who happens to be watching might be in chat. What are you currently reading? Or are you currently reading? Or listening to an audiobook? And if you happen to be watching but you're not actually signed into Twitch, you don't have a Twitch account, you can message me on Twitter. I'm Shadow's Edge on Twitter. Or if you have me on Facebook Messenger, because you already know me, you can message me that way as well. Okay, so while I'm giving people a chance to do that, I did want to give you a better look at the cup. Like I said, this is the 20th anniversary, and it is actually a glass cup made to look like a red Solo cup. Hey, Kelly. Yeah, that was probably Seraph, because Watson's too Sarah will probably do that more than once. Hopefully she won't decide to walk in front of me. So, yeah, this was the 20th anniversary special glass for the Flying Saucer. Unfortunately, the Austin Flying Saucer no longer exists, which makes me very sad. I don't get to talk to the people that I used to see all the time there, and I miss them. I only see them on Facebook nowadays. And San Antonio and Sugar Land and Houston and Dallas are too far away to drive just to go have a beer, unfortunately. So, I said this is the Dragons and Dinosaurs Double Dry Hop Blonde Ale. Blonde ales are very light in color. They are generally fairly light and crisp beers. This one is a little bit on the hazy side, and it is more hoppy than most of them. Luckily, it's not a resinous or a piney hop, which I am particularly sensitive to. But it's something to drink on a warm day. It's probably not one that I will drink a whole lot because it reminds me a lot of an IPA. But if you like those piney, resinous, hoppy IPAs, this would probably be something relatively light for you. It's a little bit more on the grapefruit than pine side, and that's one of the reasons why I actually like it, and I can actually drink a whole one. But, yeah, it's not my favorite of the beers that I've tried. So, in my original audio podcast, they were only about 15 minutes long, so I would only drink one beer, only talk about one beer. But this is a longer format, and so I'm going to be talking about more than one beer. And first, I wanted to show off my glass. This is from Alamo Drafthouse from when they were showing Ocean's 8. I actually just rewatched Ocean 8 on Vudu a couple weeks ago. And the beer that I'm going to be putting into it is 903's Down with the Patriarchy. This is a strawberry cake cream stout. It does have a an ABV of 7.5, so it's a little bit higher. Sorry, just checking Twitter to see if anybody had messaged me there. And it actually, 903 does a nice little thing on their cans where they show you what is the best glassware to put this in. And they have a bunch of text there, and that text basically says, cake? I could drink some cake. At 903, we have strong women at the helm, and we wanted to brew something to celebrate women that love craft and the strength they bring to the community. This brew is packed with flavor and should be a reminder of what the women of 903 Brewers and others in the industry bring to the craft industry. Cheers. So this is a stout. It's a cream stout, actually, and stouts are one of my favorites. It is strawberry, and they use strawberry puree in it. So even when they filtered it, they didn't get all of the puree out. So every once in a while, this gets a little bit of extra haziness in it towards the bottom as the puree settles. This is not the first time I've had this, in case you can't tell. And I got the glass from Alamo Drafthouse. So, now why did I choose a beer called Down with the Patriarchy for my second beer? I chose this one because this second set of books that I'm going to talk about are all books that were recommended by the reading list for the Sirens Conference. Sirens is a conference about women in fantasy literature. And those women can be readers, writers, publishers, characters. If it has to do with fantasy literature and it's a woman, they are included in the conference. They also are extremely friendly to those who are non-binary, to any group that is marginalized. It's a conference that I normally go to every October. I missed last year's because I was teaching at work, but I'm hoping to go back this year if things are a little less crazy than they are right now. So all of the books for their reading list have to do with their guests of honor or the theme for that year. Now, my reading list from them is ridiculously long because I haven't read all the books from previous years. So not all the books that I'm reading now are actually books that are on this year's reading list. This year's theme is villains. Last year's was heroes. And most of the books that I am going to be talking about here have to do with one of those two themes. Oh wow. Yeah. It's been a while since I had that one. Lots of strawberry. Lots and lots of strawberry. In a good way. Okay. So like I did with the books in the first part, I have listened to some of them and I have read some of them. So I've listened to Jade City by Fonda Lee. In Jade City, jade is not just your normal semi-precious stone. It is a stone that allows or gives people of a certain ethnicity certain physical powers. Things like kind of creating an armor for themselves, So they're all having to do with basically physical combat type stuff. It's not set current day. None of the characters, substantial characters, are Caucasian. It's based off of Asian influences and martial arts. And I wasn't sure exactly what time frame they were doing. They have cars, they have radio, they don't have computers. They do have TV. They do have air flight and stuff like that. So it was kind of the main problem that I had with it was trying to picture when it was taking place. But that was really the only thing that I was having any problem with. The second book in the series is called Jade War. And given where the first book ended, I'm very interested in getting my hands on Jade War and either listening or reading it. It was fairly easy to follow, even though I was in and out of the car, because I do mostly listen to audiobooks when I'm in the car. Lots of fun stuff if you like fighting scenes. Lots of internal conflict and things like that. Hi, Mom. It's Mother's Day. You should be having some fun rather than following me. The other book that I listened to was The Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. Now that, I think I'm going to have to get either the ebook or the print version of that book. I was able to follow it, but there are a bunch of different storylines in a whole bunch of different places. Political intrigue, magic, dragons, different kinds of dragons, actually. Some of the dragons are very destructive. Some of the dragons actually are more or less worshipped and have riders in one of the countries, while the main country where things take place, the dragons are something to be feared and killed. So that one was a very interesting book to listen to, and I'm pretty sure that I missed some stuff just because I couldn't pay as close attention to it as I would like to. So right now I'm probably going to need to get either the ebook or the print book and reread it. It was definitely a very long story. So I'm imagining that the book is probably fairly thick, which is a good thing for me, considering how fast I read. There were some African influences in it, Asian influences, Western European. So it was the world building was very, very good in it. In ebook, both the books that I read are from this year's Siren's List. And the first one was The Stars Are Legion by Cameron Hurley. This is science fiction. This is it's wonderful world building, but it's not a comfortable book to read. It is one that you have to work at. It is one where there are no men in the books at all. And basically you have women who live on these planet-sized spaceships, basically. They live inside of them, and there is a particular one that several of the different planetoids have been trying to get into and take over. It was really interesting. I like Cameron's writing style. There were parts of the story that were very, very hard to read. Both in an emotional and just in a trying to keep everything in context point of view. It's not a book that, even though it's got a good ending, it's not a book that you really end up with a happy feeling coming out of. It is the first book in a series. There are other books, but I have not read them yet. The other one that I listened to was This Is How You Lose the Time War. Now, this is more of a novella than an actual novel. It is far future sci-fi where things have gone very much. You have two different sides. One is the very scientific side, and one is the more mystical side. They've discovered how to time travel. They send agents back and forth between times to try to shift things in their direction. The interesting thing about this one is that it's actually written as a series of letters that are left behind in trace evidence between opposing agents. And as the story goes along, they fall in love. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot of kind of hidden stuff in there. I have the audio version, but I had forgotten that I got the audio version, and I bought the e-version, and I'm glad I read it rather than listening to it. I think it would have been somewhat confusing to listen to it. So, but that was a lot of fun. I'm going to probably reread that one soon. It is a novella, so it's really short compared to a regular novel. I did say I was going to talk about all kinds of different novels. So one of them that that I did read was a graphic novel. Now, I had been interested in the comics when this one came out, but I never got around to getting any of them. And so when this came up on the Sirens reading list as a trade version of the compiled graphic novel of the first set, I went ahead and got it. It's called Monstrous. It's got absolutely gorgeous artwork, and it's by Sana Takeda. This is the back cover. It's gotten all kinds of awards. Volume 1 is called Awakening, and it is about a character who is being chased but has control over a certain kind of monstrous power. Just for a sample of some of the artwork in the book. It's absolutely gorgeous. There's a cat, there's a little if you can see that, there's a little kid with ears and a tail in the story as well. It is primarily based in an Asian world. It does have flying ships. Sana Takeda is the illustrator. The actual author is Marjorie Liu. Let me just a second here. Since I will be putting this up as audio, probably putting it up on YouTube, and leaving case messages. I mean, not case messages. I'm thinking about work. Show notes. I want to make sure I've got that, got Marjorie Liu in there. That was really fun. That is Seraph's, whose butt you're seeing right now. She likes to come and hang out when I'm sitting at my desk. So, she's trying to decide whether or not to jump up on the top of the shelves or to come back around front. There she is. This is Seraph. Hey, baby girl. Come here. Come here. No, don't show them your butt. Okay, she's going to sit on the shelf. Normally she'll come up and she'll actually sit on my shoulders. So. Okay. The other one I have read in paperback is called Dreadful Young Ladies and Other Stories. It is by Kelly Barnhill. I love the cover on it. It's gorgeous. This is a short story collection, and it's not so much young ladies who are villains, or even just ladies who are villains, but it is short stories where there are young ladies who aren't acting quote-unquote ladylike. So, and Mom, I see that. I am currently reading Storm Rising by Mercedes Lackey. It is the second book in a trilogy in the Valdemar series. I'm currently listening to Naturally Tan by Tan France from Queer Eye when I'm exercising, and on the rare occasions when I'm in the car, I am listening to Becoming by Michelle Obama, which I think I forgot to mention it before. She narrates that book as well, and she's got a very soothing voice, actually. So, I've got a bunch of stuff on my list to read. I've got a bunch of ebooks on my e-readers to read, and I've got a to-be-read list of actual physical books that is staring me in the face every time I'm sitting out in the living room. and that doesn't count the ones that I haven't purchased yet. But I'm working on it. One of the other things that I did read, and this was supposed to be back when I was just doing the audio version of the podcast, I was reading this book and I was going to talk about it. This one is Sirens related because the author is one of the Sirens attendees, and she actually often presents panels at Sirens. It is From Unseen Fire by Cass Morris. Gorgeous book. It is an alternate history based on Roman history, the Roman Empire, with mages. And the mages are elemental, so earth, air, water, and fire. But there's also spirit, light, time, shadow, and fracture. So there's 9 different kinds of mages. The mages are not allowed to be government officials, although one of the shadow mages actually is. Nobody knows that he is a shadow mage. And the main character is a female fire mage, who is trying to avoid the attention of the emperor because he's kind of a womanizer. So, lots of fun. The other series that I read in between was Gail Carriger's Parasol Protectorate series. This is the first book in the series. I had read the book before. I had a copy of it. And then when T. Morris and Pip Ballantyne did a Facebook launch of one of the Ministry of Peculiar Occurrences books, their steampunk books, they had Gail as a guest. And one of the things they had, or that she did as a guest, was that she gave away the first 3 books autographed. And it was a drawing that they, random drawing that they did. And I happened to be the person who got the drawing. So I have the first 3 books in the trade paperback size that are signed. I have read them multiple times. It's Vampires and Werewolves in Victorian England. And ghosts and a few other things. Vampires and werewolves have too much soul compared to ordinary people, and that's what makes them what they call supernatural creatures. The main character of the book, Alexia, has no soul. She's what they call a preternal, because she has no soul. And when she touches a werewolf or a vampire, she turns them normal for the length of time that she's touching them. And if she touches a ghost long enough, they will discorporate and never come back. So she is part of high society, and the vampires are the highest society other than the royal family. And the other main character is a werewolf. Werewolves are generally involved in military or other kinds of law enforcement, and she kind of runs afoul of him. And there's some romance involved. There's some devices involved. There's a very interesting hatter involved, who is actually a creator of all kinds of different steampunk type devices. There are 5 books in that particular series, and a bunch of one-off novellas and things like that. So, it's a series that I really, really enjoy. I did reread it. I need to get my hands on the additional books in that universe. There are quite a few of them now compared to when I got this book. But the Finishing School series has titles like Etiquette and Espionage and Curtsies and Conspiracies. There's also the Custard Protocol books. She also writes the San Andreas Shifter series, which is more modern day, with supernatural creatures. And I need to get my hands on those. One of the fun things about Gail is she writes Victorian, but every time she shows up at a convention or a reading or where she expects to be recognized as Gail Carriger, she does it in basically 1940s and 50s dress. From the shoes to the hat to the handbag. And she's made a thing of it. Right now, octopuses are octopi are kind of something in her books. There's an actual inventors mad scientist group whose sign is an octopus, and so octopi have always been a thing in her Facebook feed, but the last year or so she's been really into hedgehogs. So we get all kinds of cute pictures of hedgehogs and things like that in her stuff. And in case you're wondering, one of the reasons I'm looking away fairly often is I had a Word document up with all the books and titles and stuff like that. And so I was looking over to make sure I covered everything. So, cream stouts are going to be really sweet. This one's called the Strawberry Cake Cream Stout. Lots of strawberry. You can definitely taste it. It is very sweet. This is not a beer for sitting out in the sun and hanging out and chatting. It's fairly thick. They used a strawberry puree. They didn't get all the puree out when they filtered it. But all the same, it's still very easy to drink. It is, like I said, 7.5 ABV, or alcohol by volume, which means that it's not going to be the lightest beer that you can drink. If you don't drink often, you probably want to make it one of the only beers that you drink. But other than that, it's a beer that I really like. For me, 7.5 is not that big a deal. But for some people, it is. Next week I'll probably be having at least one Imperial Stout or Imperial Porter. Those tend to have higher alcohol volumes. Alright. Besides reading, I unfortunately have not been doing a lot of writing or even editing, which I need to do. I'm hoping I'm going to get back to that very shortly. I'm trying to get a routine going, and I'm waiting for them to call me and tell me I can go pick up my laptop so I can actually work from home. One of my coworkers on days has gotten his. He said he wouldn't go into work, but he would take phone calls at home. I'm trying to avoid taking phone calls because if I do that, I may not be able to go back to working as a lead for the team that I was working on as a lead for when we shut down. But we'll see what happens. So we're working on that. We'll see. In the meantime, I am going to be actually streaming different things most days of the week. I can't tell you exactly what time, but I will post on Twitter and Facebook before I start. Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays I'm going to probably be streaming games. I started playing some older games that most people have already played, like Uncharted. That I'm planning on streaming on Mondays. Wednesdays, I'm going to try my hand at Assassin's Creed. Now, I've watched people play Assassin's Creed, and one of the things that seems to be fairly important in that game is jumping, and I'm not good at jumping in games. In fact, I'm notoriously bad at jumping in games, so we'll see what happens. On Fridays, I am going to be streaming twice. I'll be streaming the original Final Fantasy VII during the day, and then fairly late at night, I'll be streaming the Final Fantasy VII Remake. They definitely won't line up. I'm not going to try to line them up. The Final Fantasy VII Remake is not even the full Final Fantasy VII game or storyline from the original. They're breaking it up into like 3 games, but they've added a bunch of stuff to it. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, I'm going to be streaming the Arts and Crafts and Society for Creative Anachronism arts and sciences stuff that I'm working on. I'm still working on exactly how that's going to work because I'm going to have to use my phone to stream what I'm actually doing while still having the regular stream showing you me. So we'll see how that works, but I am going to be building a house for one of the little troll dolls. And I'm going to be making clothes for that troll doll. And those are the first 2 things that I'll be streaming on Tuesdays and Thursdays. The problem is that I don't have the troll doll. The troll is at the shop, out at the site, because I thought that I had brought it home, but I didn't. So, we're going to be working on that, because I kind of sort of figured out what the proportions are, and I know approximately how big the troll is, but not exactly. It's one of the old trolls, not one of the new ones. So I'm going to make some stuff for it, but I will probably have to alter it. The house should be fine, but I'm going to make making the house out of cardboard, layered cardboard, and I'll be doing that on Twitch. And then Fridays, like I said, is going to be during the day. I'll be doing the Final Fantasy, the original, and then at night late at night I will be doing the Final Fantasy remake. Now, Uncharted and Final Fantasy are on my PlayStation 4, which is not connected to my computer, so it won't have nice little graphics around it. You will be seeing the game and you will be hearing me talk about it. You'll probably be hearing me say a few bad words, because I'm not very good at gaming. It's fun, but I'm not very good at it. The other thing that you might see is on Tuesdays, when I'm doing my arts and crafts. Some Tuesdays you may see me wearing a tiara. Some of my friends have kind of made Tuesdays Tiara Day, and I don't have one right now, but I have one ordered. So you may see me wearing a tiara on Tuesdays just because. You may see me doing other things, wearing other things just because. If I had a pair of cat ears, I would probably wear it just because. I am going to try to do this podcast, the Books and Beer, every weekend. I don't know whether it'll be Saturdays or Sundays. It's going to depend on what my weekend is like. But if you have hit that little purple heart up in the corner, then you'll be following me and you'll get a notification when I do go live. And you will know that. I will always post it on Facebook and Twitter as well. I would definitely like to talk with other people. I'm going to try to see if I can figure out how to get Discord voice channels to be able to be heard on my stream, and how to bring in somebody from somewhere else on my stream. Hopefully I will get a chance to actually have other people on and discuss Books and Beer in person. Even though we all need to be separate. I'm hoping eventually to be able to do podcasts where I can talk to brewers and what books they're reading, other people who are authors who are publishing books or doing other podcasts who happen to like beer, so we can tie it into the Books and Beer. I know of several that I could possibly do, but before I can do that, I need to figure out how to get two people on screen at the same time. There is a chance I may be able to get some hands-on help later this year. I had planned to go to New Zealand for Worldcon. Worldcon has been made completely virtual because of the pandemic. And so it looks like I'm not going to New Zealand this year. I would need to be buying my plane tickets about now, and right now travel is questionable at best. So chances are I'm not going to New Zealand this year. Although I will plan on going at another point in time because I really want to go to New Zealand. But until then, the fact that I'm not going to be using that 3 weeks means that I might be able to make a trip out later this year to the Washington, D.C. area, which is where T. Morris and Pip Valentine live. And I have another friend who works for the State Department who lives out there. So I may try to do that later this year. Thanks to some very early planning, I know that I will not be teaching new hires this year because I have too much time that I'm going off. Hey, Sean, just catching the tail end. I messaged you 45 minutes before I came online. So, Sean, what I have had tonight, give me just a second here. I had Dragons and Dinosaurs Double Dry Hop Blonde Ale by True Vine Brewing Company in Tyler, Texas. Normally, double dry hopped is not my idea of a good beer, but this one is actually fairly decent. But one of the reasons I liked it was because of the graphics and because of the name. You can see it's 8-bit graphics, which just seemed appropriate for doing a first stream on a service that is normally gaming streams. The one I'm drinking right now is 903's Down with the Patriarchy. And this is, they actually do a couple different versions of this seasonally. This one is a strawberry cake cream stout. Very sweet, very malty, lots of strawberry. It is probably for most people a dessert beer. So, Sean was my drinking buddy before he moved to Oklahoma. Back when the saucer was still open. So, oh, yeah, that was the other one, Sean. The Dragons and Dinosaur. I was drinking out of the Flying Saucer's 20th anniversary red Solo cup. That is actually glass Solo cup. Sean's asking if I logged them on the app. He's talking about Untapped, and I will log them as soon as I get off, as soon as I end the stream, because logging them while I was actually drinking them on stream did not seem like the best idea. Having people watch me looking down at my phone trying to log them was probably not going to be terribly appropriate. So one of the things that you can do to help me out is, if you want to know whenever I'm going to go live, whether it's gaming or the podcast, you can hit the little purple button up in the corner of the feed so that you're following me. Thank you, Sean. Mom, would I like the beer, the strawberry beer? You know, it's a dark beer, but it's sweet enough, and the strawberry is very, very forward. I think you probably might like it. Whether or not you can get it out there is another matter. 903 they're out of Sherman, Texas. They're a local brewery in Texas, and I don't know how far out they ship. On the other hand, if you want to try it, I might be able to get a can mailed out to you. Just let me know and I'll see if I can do that. Thank you, Sean. And Sean, I will actually log them as soon as I get offline. I'm in a group on Facebook that is a group specifically for women that are interested in craft beer. And one of the ladies in the group, she and her husband started up a bottle shop just a little bit north of me. And it's called the Brewtique. They have a great selection of single bottles and cans and 4-packs and 6-packs. And I went up there about 3 weeks ago for the first time and spent way too much money on different kinds of beer. But the person who had shown up before me had bought the last of the Down with the Patriarchy. And the woman's husband, who was the one that was working at the time, told me he was expecting a new shipment within the following Tuesday. So the following Thursday, I went in and talked with him, and he was sitting there putting stuff in the register as I was pulling it off the shelves. So that by the time I got to the counter, he already had me rung up. But he was kind of laughing because he knew what I had actually come in for was the Down with the Patriarchy. I have to keep an eye on that one because the flavors change seasonally. But Mom, if you'd like me to, I need to go out tomorrow. I can go up if they still have any. I can grab another 4-pack and I can send you a couple. And yes, Sean, you can mail beer as long as you don't actually say that that's what you're mailing. And as long as you pack it so that it hopefully won't explode. I have some containers that would keep all the liquid from leaking. They're double sealed. Sean, I have your address already. So we will see. If I go up, what kinds of beers would you prefer? Because when I buy them, sometimes I can't buy them as singles and I have to buy them as a 4-pack or 6-pack. Right now, the only one that I have that that my mom would probably like would be the one that is the strawberry. Mom, I don't know if the strawberry cake Down with the Patriarchy will still be available then. So if I do end up going up there and buying another 4-pack, I may just go ahead and send you one. Because if I just stick it in the fridge, it won't be here when you come out next time. It won't last that long. So, Sean, you want to see what I'm drinking? Well, I have basically a case of beers that I have singles of that I am not allowing myself to drink unless I'm drinking them on the podcast. And I'm going to be streaming this either Saturdays or Sundays. It'll be in the evening. Hopefully every Saturday or Sunday. It's going to depend on what my schedule is like. Right now, as long as we're closed, it's probably going to be on Sundays. Once things start to open up, if I start going to SCA events again, then that may change things. Or if I'm out of town, it may change which day I'm doing it on. So, and Sean, you missed it. I'm going to be streaming games as well as the arts and crafts, arts and sciences stuff that I do. So Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, I'm going to be streaming games, and then Tuesdays and Thursdays, I will be streaming the different arts and crafts stuff that I do. Man, Kelly left and she didn't even say goodbye. And now my sister. She could have at least said goodbye. And Mom, happy Mother's Day. I know I posted on your Facebook page, but this way you get to hear me say it. Mondays and Fridays I'm going to be streaming off of my PlayStation. So it's not going to have fancy stuff, and I probably will not see comments unless I happen to be looking at my phone. Yes, now that you're following me, it will tell you when I'm on. But I will also try to send out Facebook and Twitter notifications when I go out live. I need to set up some automation stuff so it will automatically do that. I haven't quite figured all that out yet. And it's going to be interesting to try to do the arts and crafts stuff. That will probably look different than this because there will probably be the background of whatever I'm doing and then the actual secondary cam with me. Am I beery? No, not really. I'm hot because I had to turn off my fan, my overhead fan, because it made too much noise for the microphone. I have a fancy microphone. But it picks up the overhead fan, and so I had to turn that off. In fact, it actually picks up the noise of my computer. So I had to turn it off so that I didn't have as much noise. I keep forgetting I need to look at the camera instead of just the screen, but I'm trying to read what's going on in chat. And earlier I had my Word document up with all my stuff about my books. And I was trying to, and the beers, and I was trying to read that. So, Sean, what microphone did you get? And are you going to stream your podcast, or are you just going to do audio? just audio first. The only problem with doing just audio first, and actually it's not that different from doing streaming first, is that you're talking into the void. You don't know who you're talking to because there's nobody sitting there doing it with you unless you set up interviews. Now with Twitch, there is a way to bring in a second stream, and Discord actually now has video as well. So there's a way that you might be able to pull Discord into Twitch and actually have an audio and video two-person discussion. That's something that I'm still looking into because I would like to get you, Sean, on this podcast and have us talking about books and beers. Since you did miss most of it, I did talk about the audiobooks that I'm listening to. I did talk about graphic novels, ebooks, and the actual physical print books that I'm reading. So, my mic it's not a Yeti because those were too expensive. I think it's Toner. But I got the mic and the swing arm, the boom arm, and all of that with it, which made it a nice, quick setup. I'd have to look that one up. I don't know that much about that one. Okay, handheld USB microphone. The Toner is a USB microphone, but I have, like I said, the boom mic for it. I could have gotten a just a mic stand for it, but I've got too much stuff on my desktop already. You guys can't see my desktop, but you can see my office shelves behind me and the stuff that's in front of the craft shelves. You can see the edges of the boxes by the chair there. I didn't have room to have an actual desktop mic. I needed the boom arm for it, or the swing arm for it. Yeah, the foam cover is important because it keeps most of the extraneous sound out of it, and it also keeps it kind of acts as a pop filter, so your P's and your hard syllables don't pop so much. I used to have an actual, what they call a studio mic, and I have a very simple 4-band mixer. I could never set that up right, and that's why when I did the other podcasts, it tended to sound kind of like I was in a well, because I couldn't get it set up right here. I have a friend online who did a audiobook version of a book that he wrote, and he wrote a book about it was anthropomorphized boars and other animals, and I did several voices for that book, and that was back when I was in the house, and I was able to get it to work right there, but once I moved over here, I wasn't able to get it to not sound like I was talking from the bottom of a well. Um, and I decided to go ahead and just go with the USB mic, which would go directly into the computer without extra stuff. It seems to be working fairly well. Based on what I'm seeing in my stream, I'm hitting mostly in the green, but a little bit in the yellow and red, which means the upper edges of where it may start to kind of sound weird. But part of that is there's the background noise of the computer. One of the things I'm hoping to do eventually is to replace the computer that I have now, which I've had since I was in the house, with something a little bit quieter and a little bit more powerful for when I stream. Maybe I'll actually end up getting something where I can actually connect my PlayStation to that. I'm going to see if I have any listeners before I put much more money into it. I'm getting all these social media real estate for the name I want. Keep in mind that initially you're not going to have too many listeners. Social media is a big deal. You do want to try to capitalize on that. That will hopefully get you more listeners. It's something I'm particularly bad at, and I end up kind of talking into the void until people show up. I would very much prefer to actually know that people are going to be there when I start talking. In that respect, doing it audio only is easier, because you're not expecting to be talking to people. Twitch is a little intimidating when when you can't see that anybody's actually on the feed. And since I'm going to take the audio out of this and do an actual audio feed on it, that does make it a little intimidating sometimes. But one of the ways that you get an audience is to just start basically talking into the void, and start posting about it, and make sure that your friends are listening to it, and get your friends to help you out and recommend it. In this case, I started this podcast actually talking into the void, and my sister logged in just a few minutes after I started talking, which helped because I could talk to her. And then my mom logged in, and then you logged in. So in that respect, it's getting a little bit easier. I'm hoping that I'll be able to get other people to log in, and listen. But I am planning on making it available on YouTube for the video version, and then I'll do the audio version, which will go up on the actual Beers, bookandbeers.club website. So, and Mom, I'm pretty sure we probably lost you because you don't know anything about podcasts. Although, I think you would have fun with podcasts. I think you could do a good podcast with all the kinds of stuff that you do. And Sean, no need to apologize. You know, I know that people aren't necessarily. That's one thing about streaming is I know people aren't necessarily going to be able to get online while I'm doing it. That's just a fact. Okay, so Sean, what are you reading anything right now or listening to anything right now? The Elrac saga. You know, I have an omnibus of the first three, and that is one of the few ones that I started and didn't finish. That was a long time ago. I may go back and try it again, but it just didn't hit those spots at the time that I tried it that made it work for me. Then again, I kind of tried it with a lot of stuff going on at the same time, so it might have been something other than just, it may have just been that I couldn't have paid enough attention to it. It's one of the ones that I feel like I should read it, just because so many of the people that I know have read it and enjoyed it. Just so that I know what people are talking about, and I have a reference point. But I haven't gotten back to it. Right now I'm rereading Mercedes Lackey's Valdemar books. Because those are my comfort reads. So the other thing that I need to do, and I need to do it soon, is I have all the ingredients to brew my vanilla porter, and I keep saying I'm going to do it, and I haven't done it. I probably won't be able to do it tomorrow, because I will probably be out and about doing things tomorrow. But maybe on Tuesday. Ooh. No, I don't think you drove her off. She may have had other things to do. So I finished off I'm about to finish off the pastry stout. So the pastry stout, and I forgot about that. They use strawberry puree in, and that last swallow was pretty much strawberry puree. But yeah, I'm having fun. I want to talk about books, and I want to talk about beer, and I want to talk about, the stuff in between. Yeah, I miss the saucer period. The closest one to me now is San Antonio. Although I have most of the Austin Beer Goddesses on as Facebook friends, so I keep up on what they're doing. I really should have tagged them on the announcement for this. And if I ever, actually I have a couple of IPAs in my list. So I'm going to have to make sure I tag Jaylee on those, because she was my IPA goddess. I haven't found a replacement for the saucer. The closest I've found is the Brewtique, which is a bottle shop that I can get singles at. As far as being able to try a bunch of different beers. The Brass Tap is in the Domain, but it's basically a warehouse space. So they have a good selection of beers, but you can't hear yourself think when you're in there. I don't go out a whole lot. Groceries and stuff like that. I'm going to have to go to Costco this week because I need to get a few things, and I need to get gas. But the Brewtique is just north of where I get my groceries, so it's just a little bit longer to go up there and get some really good beers, and they've been able to recommend some really good stuff for me. As far as stouts go, I have a Russian Imperial Stout and a pastry stout that are in that case, basically the equivalent of a case of stuff that I'm going to be doing in the next couple of weeks. And I'm not sure, but I think your last post may have just been censored by the profanity filters. Unless you meant to type 3 asterisks. Okay. It was a link. Okay. It was a link. Okay. It was a link. Okay. Okay. So apparently, okay. So apparently, okay. So apparently, alright, so that's what happens when I accidentally open actual Twitch on a web browser while I'm using the actual streaming thing. Alright, so that's what happens when I accidentally open actual Twitch on a web browser while I'm using the actual streaming thing. Okay, we'll try this again. Yeah, so what happened is I'm using Streamlabs OBS to actually stream this, and I opened up Twitch on the actual website, and that's what caused the double repeat that was going on. I would have to actually use my headphones to prevent that, and I'm trying to avoid doing that when I'm just doing streaming. If I'm streaming a game, I'll have the headphones in. That is the one problem with streaming with an external mic. But I closed that down, so it shouldn't be a problem now. I was wondering about that, Mom. I mean, Kelly just disappeared without, saying anything at all. So Sean, my mom rescues greyhounds, and Tara is she the third or fourth greyhound you've had, Mom? Yeah, that's she rescues them from the dog racing. I think most of hers have come from Arizona because she is in San Diego. But yeah, she rescues greyhounds from the dog racing. She had Bella and Star, and she has Tara now. But I think there's another one in there. And Florida has a lot of greyhound racing, so they need a lot of rescues. Oh, Tara was from Florida. I didn't think you were getting them from that far away, Mom. I thought you were getting them mostly from Arizona. So we had Star and Bella. Was there? I thought there was another one in there. Lady. Okay. And Sean, my sister has Great Danes. She had her first Great Dane lived to be about 13 years old, and Olive now is, I want to say, 7 or 8 years old now. Olive is 11 and a half. Oh, good Lord. What is about Kelly and long-lived dogs? Because for greyhounds, for Great Danes, Sean, if you're interested in it, especially with greyhounds, I have my mom gave me a book which is Greyhounds for Dummies, and I still have it, and I could send it your way. Although with 2 cats, I don't think I would recommend rescuing greyhounds because they're used to chasing things. Yeah, you don't have the room. I can understand that. That's why I don't have a Irish Wolfhound. Because I don't have the room for it. Okay, so we got way off track. Which is not a problem as far as I'm concerned, because I like talking with my friends and my family. But does anybody have anything relating to books or beer that they want to talk about? And for anyone interested in rescuing greyhounds, For Dummies actually does have a For Dummies, Greyhounds for Dummies. A lot of states have closed dog racing. Florida closed theirs and are now about to reopen them. I am absolutely against greyhound racing. I can certainly understand that if there were a way to do it where the dogs felt like they were just playing, I wouldn't be against it, but I'm against the actual process that currently exists. Hey Sean, I'm glad that you were able to come on for a while. Becca doesn't know me, otherwise I would tell her to say hi for me. But I can perfectly understand needing to leave for your daughter. I'm going to close the stream down in just a couple of minutes. Because we have gotten way off track. So, but yeah, feel free to drop in anytime I'm streaming. Just know that if I'm streaming off my PlayStation, you'll probably need to contact me some other way other than leaving comments, because I probably won't see them. Alright, I think that this has been a fairly successful first outing. I will shoot for 7 p.m. Central Time next week for the next Books and Beer podcast stream. And in the meantime, I will be streaming games and arts and crafts. So, Sean, have a good evening. Mom, happy Mother's Day. Tell Kelly next time she should say goodbye before she logs out, so we know she's leaving. And I will make sure I send you a reminder for the next podcast. I will always post them on Facebook. I will always post them on Twitter. But if you ask me specifically to send you a specific reminder, I will do that as well. Okay? So, say goodbye to my face. And I'm going to go ahead and end this. And I will see everybody next week, hopefully. Enjoy and take care. That is